You know, people always think betrayal is loud. They imagine yelling, slammed doors, tear-streaked faces. But the truth is it starts quietly. It starts in the smallest moments you don't even notice at the time. I used to think my life was safe from that kind of drama. I had my routine down to the minute, up at 6:15, shower, coffee, kiss my wife on the cheek as she scrolled through her phone, and out the door by 7 o'clock. Work, lunch, more work, home, dinner, a little TV, then bed. We weren't unhappy, my wife and I. But we weren't anything, really. We were just moving through life side by side like two passengers on the same train who'd stopped talking years ago. The truth? I was lonely in my own home. And loneliness makes you notice things you shouldn't. It was at one of those after-hours networking events for work, the kind where the wine tastes like it came from the bottom shelf, the food is something you pick at rather than eat, and everyone's networking really means they're counting the minutes until they can leave. I was in my usual spot, not quite in the center of the crowd, but not hiding either, when I saw her. Sofia. She wasn't the most glamorous woman in the room, but she had this gravity. Like you'd notice her even if she was standing in the shadows. She was wearing a deep green dress that made her eyes the exact shade of fresh pine after rain, look like they could see right through you. And she didn't just glance at me. She locked eyes and started walking toward me, a small, knowing smile on her face. "Hi," she said, her voice low and warm. "You look like you're trying to disappear." I laughed, which startled me. It wasn't the polite chuckle I gave clients, it was real. We talked for maybe 5 minutes. But in those 5 minutes, I felt more seen than I had in years. She teased me about my tie, asked me questions no one ever asked anymore, and listened like my words actually mattered. The following Monday, I found myself hoping I'd bump into her again. And I did. She just happened to be grabbing coffee near my office. We started talking again, this time for 15 minutes. Then, a week later, we had lunch together. It was nothing until it wasn't. The messages started next. Little things at first, a photo of her morning coffee, a text about something funny she'd seen. Then it became late-night conversations that stretched past midnight. I told myself it was harmless. But somewhere deep down, I knew it wasn't. I told her things I hadn't told my wife in years, about how the spark was gone, about the way my job drained me, about how I felt like I was fading into the background of my own life. And she didn't judge me. She said I deserved better. That I deserved to be happy. I believed her, because I wanted to. The first time we crossed the line, it was raining. I'd driven her home after we met for dinner. She invited me in just for a drink. 1 drink became 2. 2 drinks became the sound of rain on her windows and her hand resting on mine. I told myself it was a one-time thing. But you know how that goes. 1 time becomes 2. 2 becomes a habit. And before I knew it, Sofia wasn't just someone I saw, she was part of my life. Months passed. I started spending less time at home, more time working late. My wife noticed, but she didn't say much. Maybe she didn't want to know. Maybe she already did. Then came the day that would change everything. It was a gray afternoon. We were sitting at her kitchen table. She was wearing an oversized sweater, her hair pulled back, no makeup, and she still looked like the most captivating person I'd ever seen. She wrapped her hands around a mug of tea, looked me in the eye, and said, "Daniel, I'm pregnant." For a second, the words didn't even register. I thought she was joking. But she wasn't smiling. My heart pounded. I should have felt joy, or fear, or something. But all I felt was this dizzying mix of panic and desire. She said it was mine. She said she wanted to keep it. And in that moment, I made the first in a series of mistakes that would destroy my life. I told her I'd stand by her. I told her I'd leave my wife. And I believed I meant it. When I told Sofia I was staying with her, I felt like I was making a bold, irreversible step, like I was finally taking control of my life instead of letting it slowly fade away in the shadow of a loveless marriage. I told myself I was doing the right thing. That honesty, even late, was better than living a lie. But looking back now, I realize I wasn't running towards something new, I was running away from something I didn't have the courage to fix. And sometimes, when you run blindly, you end up in a darker place than the one you left. I packed my things from the family house in less than 2 hours. I didn't want to drag it out. My wife didn't argue. She didn't cry. She just stood in the doorway with her arms crossed, eyes glassy but dry, like she'd already grieved the loss of our marriage long before that day. Our children were in the living room. My son stayed on the couch, eyes fixed on the TV, pretending not to hear me say goodbye. My daughter, she ran to me at first, but then, when she saw her mother's face, she stopped, took a step back, and held on to her leg instead. That moment burned into my mind. And as I carried the last box out to my car, I told myself it was temporary, that one day they'd understand why I left. I was lying to myself. Sofia welcomed me into her apartment like it was a victory. She hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe, whispered I knew you'd choose us in my ear, and kissed me like the past didn't exist. For the first week, it was intoxicating. We cooked dinner together. She rested her head on my chest while we watched movies. She would place my hand on her stomach, whispering, "Our baby can feel you." I wanted to believe that love had conquered everything. But slowly, that warmth turned into something else. It started with little things. She'd call me at work just to check in, but the calls became more frequent, more insistent. "Who was that woman I heard in the background?" She'd ask one afternoon. "That's Janet. She's in accounting," I'd reply. "Oh, so you're close enough to her for her voice to be that loud near you?" I'd laugh it off at first, but the calls didn't stop. They became interrogations: where I was, who I was with, why I didn't answer on the first ring. One night, I worked late preparing a presentation. By the time I got home, it was almost midnight. Sofia was sitting at the kitchen table, arms crossed. "Were you with her?" she asked before I even set my bag down. "With who?" I was exhausted. "That Janet woman. Or is there someone else you haven't told me about yet?" No matter what I said, she wouldn't believe me. The evening ended in cold silence, the kind that makes the air in the room feel heavy. The irony? She hated being questioned herself. If she said she was running to the store, she could be gone for hours. If she said she was meeting a friend, she wouldn't tell me who. And when I asked, her tone sharpened instantly: "Don't start acting like my owner, Daniel. I'm not your property." Once, she came home with her hair and makeup done like she'd been at a photo shoot, not a quick errand. There was a faint smell of cologne on her coat, not mine. When I mentioned it, she smiled faintly and said, "You're imagining things." When our baby was born, I thought all of that would change. And for a short time, it did. I'll never forget the first time I held that tiny, warm body in my arms. I'd been there through the delivery, gripping Sofia's hand, feeling her nails dig into my skin as she screamed through the pain. And when I saw our child for the first time, my heart felt like it would burst. For a few weeks, life had a rhythm. Feedings in the middle of the night, naps during the day, soft laughter when the baby made a funny face. Sofia looked beautiful, even when she was tired. I thought maybe this was the turning point. But then I started noticing things. The baby's eyes, deep brown, not the green Sofia had, not the blue I did. The skin tone, just slightly darker than either of ours. At first, I brushed it off. Genetics can be strange, right? I told myself that love mattered more than DNA. But those thoughts, they don't go away. They grow. And every time I saw those brown eyes staring back at me, I felt a quiet unease. Sofia's behavior didn't help. She became more secretive. Her phone was never out of her hand. She'd take it to the bathroom, hide the screen if I walked into the room, and always, keep it face down on the table. If she left the apartment, she never said exactly where she was going. Sometimes she'd come back with new clothes or things for the baby that I hadn't seen her buy. Once, I noticed a receipt in her bag, a dinner for two at a restaurant we'd never been to together. When I asked about it, she laughed and said, "Oh, that? I met a friend." Stop overthinking. But the seed of suspicion had been planted, and it was growing fast. Then came the day I'll never forget. It was a Thursday evening. I got home from work, and the moment I opened the door, I knew something was wrong. The apartment was silent. No baby cries, no TV noise, no Sofia humming in the kitchen. I walked into the bedroom, the crib was gone. The baby's clothes were gone. Sofia's dresser drawers were empty. Even the green dress she wore the night we met was missing. My chest tightened. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. In the kitchen, I noticed something on the counter, an envelope with my name written in her handwriting. I opened it. Inside was a single blank sheet of paper. No message. No explanation. She was gone. And so was the child I thought was mine. For the first hour, I was frozen. I sat at the kitchen table, the blank sheet of paper in front of me, my hands pressed to my face, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I told myself there had to be a reasonable explanation. Maybe she'd gone to her mother's. Maybe there was some emergency. Maybe the phone was dead. But the truth was already there, lurking in the back of my mind: Sofia wasn't coming back. I called her phone 12 times in a row. Straight to voicemail every time. I sent messages: "Where are you? Is the baby okay? Please, just tell me you're safe." No reply. By the third hour, I was pacing the apartment. My chest was tight, my hands shaking. I grabbed my coat and went to her mother's house across town. Her mother opened the door just enough for me to see her eyes. Cold. "She's not here," she said flatly. "Do you know where she is?" "She left with the baby," her mother cut me off. "Don't come here again." And then the door shut in my face. I went to the police. They listened, but not with urgency. "Is she your legal wife?" the officer asked. "No." "Is your name on the baby's birth certificate?" "No, we hadn't filed it yet." The officer sighed, leaned back in his chair, and said the words that made my stomach drop: "Legally, there's not much we can do. She's the mother. If she chooses to leave, that's her right." I wanted to scream. To shake him and make him understand that something was wrong. But the law wasn't on my side. Days passed. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I went to every CAF she used to visit, asked waiters, showed her photo. Some recognized her, some didn't. One waitress said she'd seen Sofia 2 days before she vanished, with a man. Tall, dark hair, wearing a leather jacket. The words hit me like a punch. "A man?" I asked. The waitress nodded. They looked close. I went home and tore through Sofia's things, what little she'd left behind. In the bottom of a drawer, under a pile of old receipts, I found a small photo. Sofia, holding the baby. Standing next to the man in the leather jacket. His arm around her waist. They were smiling like a family. My hands went numb. The room spun. I looked at the baby in the photo, those same deep brown eyes. And in that moment, I knew the truth I'd been running from since the day she told me she was pregnant. The baby was never mine. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat on the couch with the photo in my hands, staring at their faces. The man's smile wasn't forced. It was the kind of smile you give when you feel safe. When you belong. It made me sick. I turned the photo over. On the back, in Sofia's handwriting, there was a date, 2 months before the baby was born. 2 months. I knew I had to find him. I scanned the photo again, looking for clues. Behind them, there was a sign. Most of it was out of frame, but I could make out the letters Ranty and part of a red logo. A restaurant, maybe. I spent hours online, searching for every place in the city with Ranty in its name. Only one matched the style, Ristorante Rosa. I drove there the next morning. The waiter didn't recognize me, but when I showed him the photo, his eyes flickered for a split second. "Yeah, they've been here," he said. "Couple times. Always together." "Do you know his name?" I asked. The waiter hesitated. "No. But I've seen him give the valet a big tip. He drives a black Mercedes, older model." That was something. I went to a friend from college, Alex, who worked as a private investigator. I showed him the photo. "You're in deep, man," he said. "If she's with this guy, and she left like that, she doesn't want to be found. I need you to find her anyway." Alex agreed, partly because he owed me a favor, partly because he could see I was falling apart. 3 days later, he called. "Eve got something. The guy's name is Marco Alvarez. Runs import-export out of the docks. Which is usually code for something less legal." "And Sofia?" I asked. "She's been living with him for weeks. Not in the city, in a house outside of Riverton. Big place, gated, cameras everywhere." I gripped the phone tighter. "She has I stopped myself. She has the baby." Alex's voice softened. "Dan, I don't think that's your kid." "I know," I said quietly. "But I'm not leaving her with him." That night, I drove to Riverton. It was almost midnight when I parked a block away from the address Alex gave me. Through the trees, I could see the house, lights on, music faintly playing from inside. And then I saw her. Sofia stepped out onto the balcony, wearing a silk robe, holding the baby. She smiled at someone inside. A moment later, Marco joined her, his arm wrapping around her waist. She looked happy. Happier than she ever did with me. I sat there in the dark, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I'd come to bring her back. But now I wasn't sure if she'd ever been mine to begin with. I sat in the car for hours. The night air grew colder, but I didn't move. Every few minutes I'd glance at the balcony, watching them like some ghost from a life I didn't belong to anymore. I told myself I just needed to see them once, to know they were safe. But that was a lie. I wasn't here for peace of mind. I was here because I couldn't stand the thought of her building a life with him, with my place in it erased like I never existed. At 3:17 a.m., the house went dark. I got out of the car, pulling my hood low, my footsteps crunching softly against the gravel. The gate was tall but not impossible to climb. My hands gripped the cold metal, and with a quiet pull, I was over. I moved along the side of the house, sticking to the shadows. Through one window, I saw Marco asleep on the couch, a half-empty glass of whiskey beside him. Sofia wasn't there. Then I heard it, a faint baby's cry upstairs. My chest tightened. I found the side door unlocked. Inside, the air smelled of expensive perfume and cigarette smoke. I crept up the stairs, each step feeling like a gunshot in the silence. At the end of the hallway, a door was slightly open. Light spilled from inside. I pushed it slowly, and there she was. Sofia sat in a rocking chair, humming softly, the baby in her arms. She didn't look surprised to see me. In fact, she smiled. "I knew you'd come," she whispered. I froze. "You what?" She stood, walking toward me, the baby still cradled against her chest. "You think I didn't plan this?" she said, her voice calm, almost soothing. "You think I didn't know exactly how to make you follow me?" My mind raced. "You took the baby," she cut me off. "The baby you were never supposed to think was yours. But you did. And now here you are." I felt sick. "What do you want from me, Sofia?" Her smile widened, but there was no warmth in it. "Marco thinks you're a threat." "That's good. He's dangerous, Daniel. But you're desperate. And desperate men are useful." I took a step back. "Useful for what?" She leaned in, her breath warm against my ear. "For finishing what we started. Then, maybe, you'll get to leave alive." Downstairs, I heard movement. Heavy footsteps. Marco was awake. Sofia's eyes locked on mine. "Go. Before he finds you. But remember, you owe me now." I stumbled back, my heart hammering, every instinct screaming at me to run. But as I slipped out into the night, one thought burned hotter than the rest: I wasn't leaving this unfinished. I barely slept after that night. Sofia's words wouldn't leave my head: "You're desperate. And desperate men are useful." Useful for what? The next morning, I met Alex in a quiet diner. He took one look at me and said, "Jesus, Dan, you look like hell." I told him everything, sneaking into the house, seeing Sofia, what she said about Marco. Alex didn't laugh. He didn't call me paranoid. Instead, he leaned closer and lowered his voice. "Eve heard of Marco Alvarez. He's not just some small-time smuggler. He runs people, weapons, and he's got friends in places you don't want to imagine." I stared at him. "And Sofia?" Alex hesitated. "She's not just with him, Dan. She's part of it." We started digging. Through one of Alex's contacts, we found bank transfers to an offshore account, all under fake names, but the handwriting on the authorization forms. Sofia's. Then came the photo, a grainy shot of her meeting a man at the docks. Not Marco. Someone else. And in her arms the baby. Alex slid the photo toward me. "That's not just a kid, Dan. That's leverage. The man she's with. He's the one Marco's been trying to squeeze money from. That baby is the bargaining chip." My stomach turned. "So the baby's not mine, not Marco's." Alex shook his head. "And probably not even hers. Think about it. She disappears for a week visiting family before you even knew she was pregnant. You ever see her in a hospital when the kid was born?" My mind was spinning. Had I been living in a lie so deep it went beyond our affair? 2 nights later, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered, and Sofia's voice came through, calm, almost sweet. "You've been busy, Daniel. What do you want from me?" I snapped. She laughed softly. "I told you. You're desperate. That makes you dangerous. And now, I need dangerous." She gave me an address. "Come alone," she said. "If you bring your little friend, Marco will know. And you'll be dead before you get to the door." Before I could reply, the line went dead. I sat there, phone in my hand, knowing exactly what this meant. If I went, I'd be stepping straight into their world. If I didn't, I'd never know the truth. And God help me, I needed to know. The address Sofia gave me led to an abandoned warehouse near the edge of the docks. The night was damp, the air thick with the smell of oil and salt. Every step toward that place felt like walking deeper into someone else's nightmare. Inside, the warehouse was dim, lit only by a few hanging bulbs that swayed gently. Shadows stretched long across the cracked concrete floor. I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate. Sofia emerged from the darkness, wearing a black coat, her hair pulled back. She looked colder now, sharper, as if the woman I'd known had been stripped away entirely. "You came," she said, almost pleased. "You didn't leave me much of a choice," I replied. She glanced over her shoulder, then stepped closer. "I need you to deliver something," she said. I almost laughed. "I'm not your errand boy." Her eyes narrowed. "If you want the truth about the baby, you'll do exactly what I say." She handed me a black duffel bag, heavy, unzipped just enough for me to see bundles of cash and something metallic. "What's this for?" I asked. "Payment," she said simply. "You'll take it to Pier 14. A man will meet you there. Don't speak to him, don't ask questions. Just hand it over and walk away." My instincts screamed this was a setup. "Why me?" I asked. Sofia's gaze didn't waver. "Because Marcos' men are being watched, and I'm compromised. You, Daniel, are invisible. No one will suspect you. Yet." The way she said yet made my skin crawl. As I turned to leave, I stopped. "What happens if I don't?" Sofia's smile was faint, almost pitying. "Then you'll never see the baby again. And trust me, after tonight, you'll want to." An hour later, I was standing on Pier 14. The water slapped quietly against the pilings. A single figure approached from the shadows, tall, wearing a hood. Without a word, I extended the duffel bag. He took it, but instead of leaving, he spoke. "She told me you'd be the one. But she didn't tell you the whole story, did she?" Before I could answer, he stepped closer, and under the dim pier light, I saw his face. I knew him. I'd seen him once before in a photo on Sofia's phone. And in that moment, I realized, she wasn't playing one side against the other. She was playing all of us. The man under the pier light had eyes like cold steel. He didn't look surprised to see me, more like he'd been expecting this exact moment. "You remember me?" he asked. I nodded slowly. "From Sofia's phone." His jaw tightened. "My name's Victor. And that woman you think you know, she's been lying to all of us." He glanced around the empty pier, then stepped closer. "She told you the baby's yours, didn't she?" I said nothing. Victor gave a humorless smile. "She told me the same thing." My stomach dropped. I'm saying that child isn't hers, yours, or anyone's here. That baby was taken, and she's using it to control Marco. And now she's trying to use you to move his money out before the walls close in." The waves crashed harder against the pilings, the air thick with salt and tension. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. Victor's voice was low, urgent. "Because I want her gone. And you're the only one close enough to make it happen." He leaned in. "Work with me. Help me take her down, and I'll make sure you walk away alive. Refuse, and well, you've seen what happens to people who cross her." I stared at him, the sound of the water filling the silence between us. It was insane. Partnering with a stranger who clearly had his own agenda. Trusting a man Sofia had lied to as easily as she lied to me. And yet part of me wanted it. Not just to survive, but to beat her. Why should I believe you? I asked finally. Victor's answer was simple. Because I'm the only one telling you the truth. And because if you don't, Marco's going to find out you were at the house that night, and that will be the last night of your life. Somewhere deep inside, something shifted. I wasn't just a pawn anymore. If I played this right, I could turn the board over entirely. I extended my hand. All right. We work together. Victor took it. His grip was strong, steady. Good, he said. Then we start tomorrow. And Daniel, when this is over, you're going to see a side of Sofia you never imagined. Victor's safe house was a narrow apartment above a boarded-up pawn shop. The blinds were drawn, the air smelled faintly of gun oil and old coffee. On the table between us. Here's the plan, Victor said, tapping the map. Tomorrow night, Marcos making a run. Weapons shipment. Sofia will be there, she's the one moving the cash to pay for it. I leaned forward. And you want to intercept the deal? His eyes met mine. Not just intercept. I want Marco gone. And when that happens, Sofia will have nowhere to run. It sounded clean. Too clean. Why me? I asked. Victor smirked. Because you're the last person Shed suspect to betray her. We spent hours going over the details. Where ID stand? What ID say if Marcos' men questioned me? How Victor's people would move in. By midnight, the plan was set. But when Victor went to take a call in the other room, curiosity got the better of me. I checked his bag, unzipping just enough to peek inside. On top of a pistol and a stack of burner phones was a photo. A photo of me. Taken recently. My chest tightened. Why would Victor have my picture unless I zipped the bag quietly just as he came back in? His expression was neutral, but his eyes searched mine a little too long. You good? He asked. Yeah, I lied. That night, lying on the thin mattress in the corner, I couldn't sleep. If Victor was playing me, then I was walking straight into a trap. If Sofia was playing me, I'd been in a trap since the day I met her. Somewhere between those two possibilities was the truth. And tomorrow night, I was going to find it. The night air at the docks was heavy with diesel fumes and the low hum of engines. Container cranes loomed like dark skeletons against the sky. I stood in position, just as Victor had told me, the duffel bag hanging at my side. From a distance, I saw Marcos' SUV roll in. Sofia stepped out first, confident, beautiful, untouchable. Her eyes found mine instantly, and she smiled. It wasn't the smile of a lover. It was the smile of someone who already knew the ending. Victor's voice came through my earpiece. Wait for my signal. Then move. Men in black jackets began unloading crates from the truck. Marco gave orders, and Sofia handed him a small case, the money, I assumed. Then my earpiece crackled again. Change of plans. Take Sofia. Now. My gut nodded. I started forward, but before I could reach her, gunfire erupted. Screams echoed between the containers as shadowy figures swarmed in from both sides. Marco's men fired back, bullets sparking off metal. I dropped behind a crate, my heart hammering. Through the chaos, I saw Victor, not moving toward Sofia, but toward Marco. And Sofia, she wasn't running. She was watching. In that split second, I understood. This was never about me helping Victor take Sofia down. It was about Victor using me to get to Marco, and Sofia letting it happen so she could walk away clean, with both of them out of her way. Marco went down with a shout, clutching his leg. Victor stood over him, gun raised, but before he could pull the trigger, a single shot rang out. Victor's body jerked, and he collapsed. Sofia stood a few meters away, the pistol still smoking in her hand. She looked at me, calm as ever. "You played your part perfectly, Daniel," she said. I stared at her. "Everyone's dead because of you." Her lips curved into that familiar, dangerous smile. "No. They're dead because they underestimated me." She walked past me, the case in one hand, the baby carrier in the other. As she reached the SUV, she glanced back. "Go home, Daniel. Pretend you never met me. It's the only way you survive this." The SUV's taillights faded into the dark. I stood there, surrounded by bodies, the smell of gunpowder thick in the air, knowing I'd never see her again and knowing she'd won. It's been 3 months since the docks. The police questioned me for hours, but without proof, without names, they had nothing. They let me go. I moved to another city, changed my number, tried to bury the memories under routine. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear the echo of that single gunshot, the one that ended Victor. And I still see Sofia's eyes in the dark. Last week, a package arrived at my door. No return address. No note. Inside was a single photograph, Sofia, somewhere sunny, sunglasses hiding her eyes. The baby was in her arms, smiling. On the back of the photo, in her handwriting, "He's not yours. But you were the only one who could have kept him safe. Thank you, Daniel." I burned the photo that night. But the truth is, it'll never escape her. Because the moment you've been pulled into Sofia's world, you're in it forever. And God help me, a part of me wishes I could see her again.